Beloved, the Spirit of God is speaking clearly in this hour. Get ready, for 5 things will happen on November 8th, 2025. Not by fear, not by chaos, but by divine design. We're stepping into a moment where heaven's calendar intersects Earth's timeline, and God is aligning his people with his purpose. This is not a date to dread, but a day of destiny. God is stirring something deep in the hearts of his people. It's not a surface level excitement or a fleeting emotional high. It's a deep, undeniable pull, a call back to the place where love first began. The Father is awakening hearts that have grown cold, tired, or distracted by the noise of the world. He is breathing life into dry places, reminding his children who they truly are and who he has always been. There is a divine stirring happening beneath the surface, and though many may not recognize it yet, it's already shifting the atmosphere around us. For too long, many have gone through the motions of faith without truly burning for his presence. The routine has replaced the relationship, and comfort has replaced hunger. But God is saying, enough, I'm calling my people back to the altar of intimacy. This awakening is not about louder music or larger crowds. It's about hearts set on fire again. It's about returning to that raw, unfiltered love for God, where worship isn't a performance, but a cry of surrender. It's about rediscovering the beauty of his presence and realizing that everything else fades in comparison. There will be moments where you feel the weight of his presence settle over you in your car, at work, in the middle of an ordinary day. Tears will flow for reasons you can't explain. Memories of what he once promised will resurface, and the Spirit will whisper, it's not over. The hunger that you thought was gone forever will begin to burn again. The Holy Spirit is waking up the sleeping ones. The days of complacency are being shaken. The Spirit of God is restoring wonder to hearts that have grown familiar with his presence. This awakening won't be limited to churches or revival meetings. It will break out in homes, living rooms, and coffee shops. People will begin to talk about Jesus again, not out of obligation, but out of overflowing love. Strangers will share testimonies on street corners. Songs of worship will rise where there used to be despair. The sound of this awakening will not be a single voice, but a chorus of hearts crying out, Lord, we want you more than anything else. God is awakening compassion. Where judgment once lived, mercy will take its place. Where bitterness built walls, forgiveness will tear them down. People who once felt numb will suddenly feel alive. The presence of God will soften hardened hearts, making them tender to his leading again. You'll begin to see people differently, not as problems to fix, but as treasures to love. The awakening of the heart always brings an awakening of compassion, because to know him is to love like him. There's a breaking happening, a breaking of pride, of self-reliance, of control. Many will find themselves weeping without knowing why, sensing the Father's love washing over every scar. The Spirit is drawing people out of cycles of distraction, pulling them into moments of stillness where they can hear his heartbeat again. This is not a revival of emotion, it's a revival of connection. God is not asking for louder prayers or longer hours of striving. He's asking for hearts that listen, hearts that trust, hearts that say, here I am, Lord. He is awakening intercessors, men and women who will pray not for recognition, but out of love for his presence. Night after night, they will carry nations in prayer. They will weep for souls who don't yet know him. They will speak life where death has lingered too long. Their prayers will shake atmospheres and open spiritual gates. The cry of the awakened heart is not, God bless me, but God use me to bless others. This awakening will bring a new level of spiritual sensitivity where believers begin to discern the whispers of heaven and move in obedience to them. There's also an awakening in creativity. God is inspiring artists, musicians, writers, and dreamers to release what heaven sounds like. The arts will no longer belong to darkness. They will become carriers of light again. Every song, painting, and spoken word will carry his fragrance, drawing people into encounters with his glory. This creative awakening will not come from striving, but from abiding. When hearts awaken, creativity naturally follows because it flows from the Creator himself. This awakening is not only for individuals, it's for communities. Churches that once struggled to see unity will begin to move as one. The hunger for his presence will break down denominational walls. Pastors will stop competing and start collaborating. Believers will stop arguing over who's right and start pursuing what's true. The love of God will become the center again. The Spirit is restoring simplicity, the simplicity of loving God and loving people. When hearts awaken, religion loses its power and relationship takes its rightful place. Many will find that things which once satisfied them no longer do. Old habits, toxic relationships, and empty distractions will lose their appeal. The awakened heart cannot settle for imitation when it has tasted the real thing. There will be a holy dissatisfaction, a deep longing for more of God, and that longing will not be wasted. Every desire will be met in his presence. Every void will be filled with his love. Every unanswered question will find peace in his nearness. The awakening of hearts will also bring a surge of boldness. Fear will lose its grip as believers realize who they carry within them. The timid will become courageous, the silent will begin to speak, and the hidden ones will rise with authority. Not because they seek attention, but because they have seen the King and cannot stay silent. The Spirit will empower ordinary people to do extraordinary things, not by might, not by power, but by his Spirit. And in the middle of all this, there will be a deep awareness of his holiness. Reverence will return to the church. The name of Jesus will no longer be used casually, but honored with awe. People will tremble not out of fear, but out of wonder. The reality of his presence will be so tangible that even those far from God will sense it and turn their hearts toward him. There is a fire being kindled in this season, not a fire of destruction, but a fire of refinement. God is turning up the heat in the lives of his people, not to harm them, but to purify them. The fire of God reveals what cannot be seen in the light of comfort. It exposes motives, intentions, and hidden places of the heart that have been quietly shaping decisions. When he sends his refining fire, it touches everything that doesn't reflect his nature, burning away the layers of pride, fear, compromise, and unbelief that have kept his people from walking in fullness. The fire comes as both a test and an invitation, a call to step deeper into holiness and authenticity. It does not come to destroy, but to define. There is a difference between the fire that consumes and the fire that refines. The consuming fire of God removes sin and separation, while the refining fire polishes what already belongs to him. Those who yield to this fire will begin to sense a stirring in their spirit, a recognition that certain things can no longer stay the same. The conversations, habits, and environments that once felt comfortable will start to feel heavy. God is not punishing, he is preparing. He is preparing vessels that can carry his glory without cracking under the weight of it. To do this, he must deal with what has been ignored. The refining fire is not about perfection, it's about alignment. It brings every part of life into harmony with his will. Refinement always begins with friction. It starts when God allows circumstances that press us, stretch us, and challenge the parts of us that resist surrender. The discomfort is not evidence of his absence, it's proof of his nearness. He is in the fire with you, shaping what he intends to use. Just as gold must pass through the furnace to reveal its purity, so must the believer walk through seasons of refining to uncover the true strength of faith. In that heat, impurities rise to the surface, not so that shame can take hold, but so that freedom can. God cannot heal what we keep hidden, and he cannot refine what we refuse to expose. The fire reveals and then restores. When God refines, he removes dependence on things that are fading. He takes away false securities and shallow identities. He allows shaking so that only what is unshakable remains. Many have prayed for deeper intimacy with him, and he is answering those prayers by burning away the distractions that compete for affection. The refining fire is his mercy at work. It is his way of saying, I want you free. Freedom never comes through ease. It comes through surrender. Every trial, every delay, every disappointment becomes the flame he uses to teach trust. When you understand that his fire is love in disguise, you stop running from it and begin to rest in it. This refining is also happening on a corporate level. The church is being purified. Platforms built on ego are crumbling, and hidden integrity is being elevated. God is exposing what was built by man so he can reveal what was established by his Spirit. He is raising up leaders who love presence more than popularity, humility more than hype, and truth more than applause. The refining fire is dismantling performance-driven religion and restoring authentic devotion. It is silencing the noise of imitation and awakening a generation that values purity over platform. The fire will not skip the stage or the pew. It will visit every heart that names his name. In personal lives, the refining process often feels like loss. Relationships shift, plans collapse, doors close, and comfort disappears. Yet behind it all, God is rewriting the story. The very thing that feels like an ending is the furnace preparing the vessel for greater use. Many are walking through silent seasons where prayers seem unanswered and clarity feels distant, but this too is refinement. In the waiting, the fire is removing reliance on emotion and teaching dependence on truth. What you believe when nothing is happening reveals what has truly been refined. God is not delaying, he is deepening. Refinement exposes idols, those hidden things that have taken his place in our hearts. Sometimes it's success, sometimes approval, sometimes fear. The fire touches those things not to shame us, but to set us free from what we thought we needed. Every time something false burns away, space is made for something eternal. The refining process always ends in greater glory, but it begins with surrender. You cannot carry old ashes into new fire. He invites his people to lay it all down, opinions, control, and even dreams that were birthed from striving. What comes out of the fire will not look the same as what went in, but it will shine with his reflection. There's also a refining of speech and thought happening. God is burning away words that carry fear, complaints, and negativity, replacing them with declarations of faith and gratitude. He's teaching his people the power of agreement with heaven. When the mind is refined, the mouth begins to speak differently, and when the mouth aligns with truth, the atmosphere changes. The fire cleanses language, disciplines thought, and restores purity of perspective. It teaches discernment, the ability to see with heaven's eyes, even when everything around looks uncertain. The fire of refinement reveals the difference between passion and purpose. Passion can start with emotion, but purpose endures through fire. Those who endure the refining process will carry a depth that cannot be faked. They will walk in authority that doesn't come from title, but from transformation. Their words will carry weight because they were forged in the heat of surrender. You can always tell who has walked through fire, their spirit carries peace that cannot be shaken. The refining process produces maturity. It produces people who can hold revival without breaking under it. In this divine season, refinement is not an option. It's an act of love. God disciplines those he loves, not because he delights in their pain, but because he delights in their potential. The fire may look fierce, but within it is the safest place a believer can be. It strips away the unnecessary and reveals what was eternal all along. The refining fire is God's hand-shaping hearts that can hold his presence, lives that reflect his purity, and voices that release his truth. The ones who endure it will come forth shining, not because they survived the flame, but because they were transformed by it. There is a wave rising in the Spirit, a movement of restoration unlike anything seen before. It comes quietly at first, like the gentle tide brushing the shore, but soon it will swell with power, touching every place that has known loss, disappointment, or delay. God is speaking over his people and saying, I will restore, not just in part, not just enough to survive, but complete, overflowing restoration that rewrites what was broken and breathes life into what was forgotten. Every season of pain, every sleepless night, every unanswered question is being gathered by his hand and transformed into something beautiful. What the enemy tried to destroy, God is turning into a testimony of his goodness. Restoration begins where surrender meets hope. It's the moment when the heart stops trying to fix everything on its own and lets God take over. Many have carried the weight of what was lost for too long. Relationships that fell apart, dreams that crumbled, faith that grew thin. But this is the hour where God steps into the ashes and rebuilds from the inside out. He is not merely giving back what was taken, he is giving back with increase. The pain you've endured is the soil where new growth will emerge. Every area that once seemed barren is about to bloom again. Restoration is never about returning to what was. It's about stepping into something greater than before. There are places in your life where it looked like time had run out. Prayers that seemed buried under years of silence are now awakening to the sound of his voice. God never forgets a seed planted in faith. He has been watching, watering, and waiting for the right moment to bring it to life. Just as rain revives the earth after a long drought, his presence is reviving hearts that had given up. Hope is returning where despair once lived. The wave of restoration is not coming from effort or striving, but from grace. It is a divine acceleration where what took years to build will be restored in moments. Relationships that ended in bitterness will find healing through forgiveness. Families torn apart by misunderstanding will feel the pull of reconciliation. Parents will see prodigal children returning home, not out of guilt, but because love is calling them back. Marriages that seemed beyond repair will find new tenderness as God restores trust and affection. Friendships that once carried pain will be rewritten with peace. Restoration always begins in the heart before it appears in circumstances. As God restores the inside, everything around begins to follow. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is breathing life into dead connections, reviving love, faith, and unity. God is also restoring identity. Many have forgotten who they are because of what they've been through. The enemy has whispered lies that you're too far gone, too broken, or too late. But restoration brings remembrance. God is reminding his people that they are chosen, beloved, and called. He's peeling off the labels, that pain attached, and restoring the truth of who he made you to be. Where shame once ruled, confidence is rising. Where fear once held you back, courage is being reborn. The Father is rewriting the narrative, reminding his children that their story doesn't end in loss, but in redemption. There's financial restoration coming to those who have been faithful in lack. God is repositioning resources, opening doors that no man can shut, and releasing divine favor in places that once felt barren. But this restoration isn't about greed or comfort, it's about purpose. God is blessing his people to become a blessing. The wealth of restoration carries responsibility to rebuild what has been broken in the world, to lift others, and to spread his goodness everywhere you go. Provision will flow with purpose, and testimonies of unexpected increase will fill the mouths of those who refused to quit when it was hard. Emotional restoration is sweeping through hearts that have been numb for too long. The pain that was buried beneath busyness and denial is being brought to the surface, not to torment, but to heal. God is touching deep wounds, rejection, betrayal, loss, and turning them into sources of empathy and compassion. Tears that once fell from sorrow will soon fall from gratitude. The joy of the Lord is returning as a strength you didn't know you had. Restoration doesn't erase the memory of what happened. It removes the sting. You'll remember the trial, but it will no longer define you. It will become the evidence of his faithfulness. This wave of restoration is not confined to individuals. It's moving across nations. Communities divided by hatred will find unity through grace. Churches that have been dry and mechanical will overflow with presence and power again. Movements that once carried fire but lost their spark will reignite. The Spirit of God is reclaiming spaces that darkness once occupied. Justice is coming to those who have been oppressed, and truth is being restored where lies once reigned. It's not the end of the story, it's the beginning of revival birthed from restoration. For those who have felt overlooked or forgotten, God is saying, I have seen you. Every hidden act of obedience, every quiet moment of faithfulness, every sacrifice made in secret, none of it was wasted. He's bringing recognition not for ego's sake, but to reveal his timing. Those who were last are being brought to the front, not because they demanded it, but because they endured the refining. Restoration will often look like vindication. The very ones who doubted you will see what God does through you, and it will point them to his glory. In this divine restoration, even time is being redeemed. God can restore years that were lost to confusion, fear, or regret. What you thought was wasted will bear fruit faster than you can imagine. The Spirit is collapsing delays and bringing harvest from old seasons. Moments that felt like failure are becoming foundations for the future. This is not a slow trickle of change, but a flood, a wave that sweeps through every area of life until everything aligns with his promise. The same God who turned Joseph's prison into a palace and Job's loss into double portion is doing it again in this generation. The sound of restoration carries peace. It silences striving, heals restlessness, and ushers in a deep knowing that God is making all things new. You won't have to chase what's yours. It will come to you in his timing. The hand that allows the breaking is the same hand that rebuilds with beauty. Where there was weeping, laughter will rise. Where there was loss, abundance will flow. Where there was despair, joy will take root. The wave is already forming, and as it moves, it will touch every corner of your life with the undeniable proof that God restores better than before. There is a holy separation taking place in this season, one that is not born out of division or pride, but out of purpose. God is moving through his people like a refiner, separating the pure from the impure, the genuine from the imitation. This is not a punishment, but a preparation. The Spirit of God is calling his children higher, and in that calling, he is removing everything that cannot go with them into the next season. The shaking you feel is not chaos, it is clarity. God is distinguishing between what has been built by human effort and what has been birthed by his Spirit. There is a divine line being drawn, not to divide his family, but to define his bride. This separation begins in the heart. It is the quiet conviction that stirs when you realize certain things no longer fit. The conversations that used to entertain now grieve you. The environments that once felt comfortable now feel heavy. God is awakening sensitivity to his presence, and as he does, compromise loses its appeal. There is a purity he is restoring to his people, and purity always requires separation. He is separating distraction from devotion, noise from stillness, busyness from fruitfulness. The Spirit is whispering, come away, leave behind what no longer carries my breath. The closer you draw to him, the clearer the difference becomes between what is holy and what is hollow. In this divine process, God is not rejecting people, he is redirecting paths. Some relationships that once felt essential are being loosened, not because of failure or conflict, but because your assignment has shifted. When he calls you higher, he often asks you to release what was once familiar. Not every companion from one season is meant to walk into the next. The pain of separation is real, but it is also sacred. It teaches trust that he knows what you need better than you do. Trust that his pruning always produces fruit. Every goodbye in this season carries hidden grace. What feels like loss is actually the clearing of space for divine alignment. There is also a separation between appearance and authenticity. God is pulling back the veil on things that looked spiritual but lack substance. Platforms built on charisma are crumbling, while hidden lives rooted in prayer are being elevated. The spotlight is shifting from performance to purity. The Lord is exposing the difference between gifting and anointing, between talent and truth. This exposure is not about shame, it is about restoration. He is cleaning his house, refining his church, and bringing his people back to a place where his presence matters more than applause. The season of imitation is ending. The world doesn't need polished religion, it needs burning hearts. This divine separation is not only about people, but also about purpose. Many are feeling the tension of being pulled out of old assignments that no longer carry the same grace. God is separating calling from comfort. He is saying what worked before will not work now. The oil for this new season requires obedience to new instructions. Those who cling to the old out of fear will find frustration, but those who release it in faith will find fresh anointing. Separation always precedes promotion. Before God entrusts new authority, he ensures that loyalty lies with him alone. The wilderness seasons that seem silent are often where this separation does its deepest work. The divine separation is also exposing motives. The Spirit is revealing the why behind the what. Why do you serve? Why do you give? Why do you pursue what you pursue? He is stripping away hidden agendas, purifying intentions, and teaching his people to do everything from love, not from need. The fire of separation burns away self-interest so that only love remains. This process can feel like loss because it removes the masks we've worn for acceptance, but it leads to a deeper freedom, the freedom to be fully known and fully his. For many, this separation feels like isolation, but it's actually invitation. God is drawing people into secret places away from noise and opinion so he can speak identity without interference. The hidden years are holy years. They may not bring recognition, but they birth revelation. In these quiet places, he teaches you to hear his voice again, to depend on his presence, and to live without needing validation. When he separates you, it's because he wants to saturate you. What feels like being set aside is actually being set apart. There is also a moral and spiritual separation happening across the earth. Truth is confronting deception, and light is exposing darkness. God is calling his people to stand firm in righteousness, even when culture bends. The gray areas are disappearing. The days of blending in are ending. Those who follow him will be marked by conviction, compassion, and courage. It will not be easy, but it will be worth it. He is raising a people who fear no man because they fear the Lord. They will not compromise integrity for acceptance or trade conviction for convenience. The divine separation produces unshakable believers who carry heaven's authority because their hearts are wholly his. As this separation unfolds, the church will begin to look different. The emphasis will shift from entertainment to encounter, from programs to presence. God is separating those who want to build their own kingdoms from those who want to advance his. Churches and leaders who humble themselves will experience greater glory, while those who resist refinement will watch their influence fade. The Lord is not judging to destroy, he is purifying to dwell. His goal has always been habitation, a people so yielded that his presence feels at home among them. Even creation groans for this divine separation because it signals restoration. The weeds and the wheat are growing together, but harvest time reveals the difference. This is that time. The shaking across nations is not random, it is redemptive. Systems, governments, and structures are being exposed so that truth can reign. God is aligning everything to reflect his order again. Those who build on truth will stand unshaken. Those who build on lies will crumble. The separation is necessary so that light can shine without distortion. For those walking through this process, the pressure may feel intense. You may not understand why certain doors are closing or why familiar things no longer satisfy, but trust that God is in the details. He never removes without reason. Every pruning has purpose. He is creating distinction between what is temporal and what is eternal. The shaking is proof that he is near. The more he separates, the more clearly his voice will be heard. And in that clarity, you will see that what remains after the separation is not less. It is pure, it is holy, and it is exactly what he intended from the beginning. There is a shift happening in the spirit, a stirring that signals something new is being born. God is declaring a new beginning over his people, a moment where the old cycles are breaking and the weight of yesterday is lifting. This isn't just a fresh start in appearance. It's a transformation at the core of who you are. Heaven is rewriting stories that once felt finished. Places in your life that were marked by loss are being redefined by hope. What was closed is opening, what was dead is awakening, and what was delayed is being delivered in divine timing. The past may have left its mark, but it no longer has power to define the future that God is unfolding. A new beginning always begins with a word. When God speaks, creation responds. In Genesis, when the earth was without form and void, his voice brought order out of chaos and light out of darkness. He is speaking that same word. Now let there be clarity where confusion ruled, let there be peace where anxiety lingered, let there be faith where fear once controlled. The power of a new beginning lies not in what changes around you first, but in what changes within you. God is giving new vision, new strength, and new perspective. The very thing that once felt like an ending is becoming the foundation for what he is about to build next. This new beginning is not coming through striving or effort, it's coming through surrender. God is not asking you to fix everything that went wrong. He's asking you to trust him with what remains. There is beauty in the ashes, and he specializes in bringing life from what looks beyond repair. The season of loss has prepared the ground for the season of fruitfulness. You are stepping out of striving and into grace. The weight that is pressed on your spirit is being replaced by the lightness of his presence. Every burden that is felt too heavy to carry is being exchanged for the strength of his joy. In this divine reset, God is restoring time. What was delayed is no longer denied. The years that were spent wandering, waiting, or wondering are being redeemed. He can do in one moment what it would take a lifetime to accomplish without him. He wastes nothing. Every tear, every prayer, every silent moment of endurance has been building toward this. He is not just restoring what was lost, he is multiplying it. The enemy tried to convince you that it was over, but God has been quietly preparing a comeback that will exceed every expectation. When he begins again, he doesn't repeat the old. He reveals something better, something stronger, something unshakable. This new beginning will require release. You cannot step into what's next while holding on to what's gone. Some relationships, habits, or mindsets cannot travel into the next chapter. God is asking you to let go of what has expired so your hands are free to receive what he's bringing. It may hurt to release, but it will hurt more to stay attached to. Something that's no longer aligned with your calling. Trust that every door that closes is divine direction. The endings you fear are often the beginnings you prayed for in disguise. Surrender is the bridge between what was and what will be. As God brings this new beginning, he is renewing your heart. The disappointments that once dulled your faith are losing their hold. He is healing the deep places that no one else saw, replacing weariness with wonder. Where you've been numb, he's restoring feeling. Where you've been afraid to hope, he's teaching you to dream again. His Spirit is breathing life into every forgotten corner, whispering that it's safe to believe. This isn't about pretending that the pain never happened. It's about realizing that his promise is greater than the pain. What once felt like a grave is becoming a garden. This move of God will also bring new assignments. He is calling people out of hidden places and positioning them for influence, not for fame, but for impact. Those who have been faithful in obscurity are being brought forward for purpose. He is releasing ideas, strategies, and opportunities that have been kept for this exact moment. Doors that were closed before will open effortlessly because this time it's his timing. The waiting was not a waste, it was preparation. He was aligning everything so that when the new beginning came, you'd be ready to carry it with maturity and grace. There's also a new sound being released in the atmosphere, the sound of praise rising from people who have walked through fire and come out refined. Gratitude will replace grumbling, and worship will flow freely again. In this new beginning, joy will no longer be circumstantial. It will be rooted in unshakable faith. You will find yourself thanking God, not just for what he's done, but for what he's doing in real time, even when you can't yet see the full picture. The Spirit of God is cultivating hearts that worship before the miracle, because praise is the language of new beginnings. In this season, divine acceleration will accompany restoration. What took years of effort before will happen quickly now. The momentum of heaven is behind you. Ideas will come with clarity, opportunities will align without striving, and relationships that carry destiny will appear naturally. It's not coincidence, it's coordination from above. God is bringing things together in ways that only he could orchestrate. The right people, the right timing, the right resources, all converging for a purpose that carries eternal weight. The hesitation that once kept you stuck is being replaced by bold obedience. This new beginning is marked by peace. Not the fragile peace that depends on circumstances, but the kind that anchors you no matter what happens. You'll feel it settle into your spirit like a steady heartbeat, the knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. God is establishing a new rhythm for your life, one led by his presence rather than pressure. You'll move slower but with more power, speak less but with more authority, do less but see more fruit. The striving of the old season is giving way to the flow of grace. Everything is aligning for this moment. The pages are turning, the atmosphere is shifting, and heaven is rejoicing. What once seemed like a detour was always part of the path. God has been writing a story that leads here to renewal, to purpose, to promise fulfilled. The night was long, but morning is breaking. You are stepping into something new, something prepared, something overflowing with life and hope. This is not a repeat of what has been, but the unveiling of what was always meant to be. So, don't fear what's coming. Prepare for it. Live ready. Pray deeply. Love fiercely. Because when God speaks, his word never returns empty. November 8th, 2025 will not just be another date on the calendar, it will be a spiritual turning point for those who believe. Get ready, heaven is moving. And the question isn't whether God will show up. The question is, will you be ready when he does?